Welcome in to another episode of Betting the Pitch. This is episode number 162. Did not see that there's Copa Del Rey on the schedule this week, of course. Thank you for all the listeners that pointed that out. Just kidding. I wouldn't expect y'all to do that, but it would be really nice going forward if you see that I'm missing some big stuff. Please let me know so I don't completely forget about a French slate like I did already in this new year. Keeping all these matches together is hell, but that's what happens when Saudi Arabia buys the World Cup or Qatar buys the World Cup, excuse me. Saudi Arabia probably is going to buy one too at some point. And we're all just trying to fill in our time. We're trying our best to get as many matches played as quickly as possible. But we're going to go through Copa del Rey. It's all Spain, all Spanish league, all Copa del Rey episode today, because I think covered everything else that's in the midweek in the earlier podcast in this week, betting pitch number 161. So let's get into it. All lines quoted on this podcast are courtesy betonline.ag, my favorite place to get my bets down early. Reduced use is offered on almost every game you want to bet right up until game time. Please follow the link found in the podcast description below to fund your account and use the promo code GW50 to receive 50% match bonus up to $1,000. Like I said, I'm doing this mid-work day, so I'm going to do this really fast. Going to go through, try to give you something worth it because we have Copa del Rey matches today and tomorrow in Spain. A pretty big competition that everyone seems to care about, so we should see pretty full lineups and all that sort of stuff. So I could do this in Spanish, but I don't know that I'd have any sort of listeners in there. So, and probably would not be great content. So going to stay in English and going to get in here now with Barcelona hosting Real Sociedad. Currently, Barcelona is a 1-goal favorite at home. Over under is 2.5. Barcelona, to me, have been playing very well. Certainly have been playing better than Real Madrid. We saw them smoke them in Saudi Arabia. Maybe that's why Saudi Arabia was on my mind earlier. Whereas Real Sociedad have not had that distraction. So they played one less match, one less trophy, of course. But Real Sociedad has been really good defensively. And I think that's been one of the problems for them over the years. They seem to be a really offensive team, which has kind of dried up a little bit, but you could argue that's because of injuries. Mikel Oyarzabal, who's like their heart and soul. He'd been out for a long time with a knee injury, but has come back. I don't know if he's fit to start and play 90 minutes or 60 minutes or whatever you'd expect as a minimum. I don't think they'd have him just in there for a half, especially with, I think, penalties on the docket if this goes and finishes as a draw in regulation. With that said, a +1 is a really, really big price in Real Sociedad, considering how few goals they've allowed. Barcelona are really going to test that because they have really an all-offense team. And in the past, I think this first opening match of last season in the Camp Nou, wasn't called Spotify Camp Nou at that point, but I guess Barcelona was not as poor as they currently are. Pobre coolers, I think some are saying, but ultimately Real Sociedad, I thought, and I think a lot of the ESPN commentary, say what you will about American soccer commentary, but they felt pretty good about Real Sociedad and what they did in that first matchup. But I think it was a 4-2 loss, didn't cover the spread. So they were about a 1.25 goal underdog then. I don't think Barcelona are that much better. I think Real Sociedad have improved incredibly defensively, and that's the most important part for them to do any sort of improvements. Barca, they are going to play on the front foot the whole time. They have no real concern for defense, and I think that's really what's held them back with got them eliminated from the Champions League, which is embarrassing. I think for a second straight year to go into the Europa League, it's going to be hilarious because they're not going to want to be there. And that's exactly the type of betting opportunity I want against a team that doesn't feel like this competition suits their quality, their name, all that sort of stuff. The Copa del Rey does matter, and this does fit, or I guess look like a good opportunity for Xavi to continue to build momentum. But Real Sociedad, I think, are a really good team. I think their offense has come together. Sorloth and Carlos Fernandez at the end of the first half of the season before the World Cup were not firing and were not playing well together, but things have improved. Takefusa Kubo had a pretty good, kind of maybe quiet World Cup, but was there and has been really hot since league play started. I feel like someone that's been mismanaged throughout his entire career. Maybe he found a spot. I mean, taking off his kit, his camiseta, and pointing to the logo and all that sort of stuff maybe means he felt like he's found a home in the Basque Country. Don't know that there are a lot of Japanese up there, but Ultimately, I think Real Sociedad can hang with this goal. I think it's a really big +1 to have that sort of number as a goal of insurance from a Barcelona team that have had good performances, but certainly are not a consistent bunch. I think Real Sociedad can go into Camp Nou, Spotify Camp Nou, and win this match. And I don't know that I necessarily feel. I mean, under 2.5 would certainly cater towards Real Sociedad. It would be better for that. But at this point, I gotta say, like, I think that Barcelona could win a 4-3 match here. So the under wouldn't be a great play. I think the +1 is by far more. There's more value there than anything. Staying today on the 25th of January in the year of our Lord 2023, el 25 de enero. We have Osasuna hosting Sevilla. Currently, Osasuna a quarter goal favorite. All the juice on Sevilla on the road. Over under is 2. So there's not a lot of goals being expected in this matchup. 2 is about the minimum. You'll see across all of Europe, though definitely La Liga has been dipping below 2 with certain matches, with 1 3/4 being dealt, which is far too low, I think, for anyone to play under, just because there's too many mistakes, too many penalties, too many VAR decisions that unfortunately give penalties away, give goals away, all that sort of stuff. I certainly would lean to the under. I like that there's the push on 2 goals, but man, there's very little room for error. It's like playing under 5.5 in a baseball game. Unfortunately, I just feel like it can hit and certainly could. And I guess the nice part is there are no extra innings or overtime in this type of sport, at least not for grading totals. But there's just so many things that can go wrong in that situation. And I think Sevilla's defense has really shown that it is so problematic that they could make 2 mistakes and it could be 2-0 Osasuna immediately. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Sevilla. They lost both of their central defenders from a good team and have been unable to recover. I think their sporting director stepped down, or there's pressure on him too. I mean, he should be way gone by now. Lopetegui was sacked. Sampaoli is not someone that's going to make anything better defensively, I don't think. Osasuna's offense is really, really problematic itself. Doesn't really do much. It started off the year pretty well. They added some players that were kind of cast off from other teams. It seemed to start working, but that might have just been home matches and ultimately playing bad teams at home. Sounds like Rayo Vallecano from 2 seasons ago. But Osasuna's offense is dried completely. There's a lot of barren teams in this matchup. It's not really a derby in Osasuna where they do the running of the bulls in Pamplona nearby, or I think it's in the city of Pamplona. I don't know what it would take for me to back Sevilla. I can't trust their defense, and it also makes it hard for me to trust that under 2 goals. So I feel like there's probably nothing for me to do there, and we'll skip on to Thursday, where Valencia hosts Athletic Club Bilbao. Currently, Valencia a pick'em with a little bit more of the juice on Athletic Club on the road. Over-under is 2.25. And that feels like a really short number too. Athletic Club had to play Real Madrid on Sunday in a big match. And so there's potential for some letdown here, though they are, I think, the most successful of all the Spanish clubs in this competition, which is kind of incredible based on only fielding Basque players, only having a Basque roster. You have to grow up there or do your training or essentially learn how to play soccer there in order to play for the team. That's pretty cool, and Real Sociedad used to do that, but stopped. When I go the other side with Valencia, they're in a rebuilding process. Trust the process is more of a basketball term for the 76ers. I'm not sure how that's going now, but it seemed to go pretty well then. Valencia are essentially just a young team that are trying to grow into something that can play offensively, they can play defensively. I think they're much better offensively than they are defensively, but a lot of that's because of Edinson Cavani, who's not part of the youth project. He was just brought in to try to give some help. I'm looking to be against Valencia as much as possible. I feel like they I've backed them a few times this year with mixed results. I feel like their losses are brutal and their wins are really, they hang on for dear life. Usually on the road is when I'll back them as an underdog, but the style, their home pitch advantage is not as strong as it once was. Supposedly one of the biggest stadiums and best fan supports, crowd supports in all of Spain, all of maybe Europe, you could even argue, but the success has not been there recently. So Athletic Club is the only way I'd want to look in this one. I don't love that they're potentially I guess they're favored. They're more likely to win on the three-way line and have more juice on the pick 'em. I doubt that'll flip around by tomorrow afternoon before this match kicks off. And unfortunately, with 2.25, there's not a lot for me to do there because I don't trust the Valencia defense. I think it's going to be hard for Athletic Club to score, but I do think that Valencia will make some big mistakes. They still have a lot of really bad yellow card, red card mistakes in them. I don't like Valencia very much, if that's not so clear. Last but not least, we have the biggest names out there. Real Madrid hosting Atletico Madrid in a Madrid derby madrileño, I believe. And this is where ESPN in America will criticize or basically say it's like the white collar, the rich Real Madrid fans and the poor Atleti supporters, which is hilarious and something they should never say, but they seem to always do it because they're stupid. Real Madrid currently a half a goal favorite, over under is 2.5. And I got to say, Real Madrid being only a half a goal favorite seems a little bit slight to me. Atleti are, I guess, staying with the blue collar theme. They are a tough team that will not be out physicaled, if that's a word. And I don't think it's really a great thing for a match or a game like soccer where you want to be as controlled as possible. Atleti are not. Their manager is not. And their team reflects their manager, but they also have expectations that are far above their talent levels. I feel like Real Madrid have looked really, really average, pedestrian, awkward so far ever since the restart. We've seen them in the past be Karim Benzema offense only. And the nice part is that Atleti are likely to give up a lot of free kicks from over fouling or being over aggressive. You never know when a red card's coming from one of their central defenders. Hermoso is usually on that list. I think in terms of this matchup and how to bet it, it's kind of hard for me to come up with much. I guess I lean to Atleti getting half of a goal because Real Madrid have not looked very good, but I just don't know if there's enough for me to trust Atleti. I think I'd want a full goal of insurance to get involved here, and I won't get it. Over under at 2.5 is probably the under there is probably most interesting to me. It's a little bit more juice to under than to over. I think there's red card risk big time with any Atleti match. That's a big problem. Real Madrid can score a ton of goals. They do it. The late show is huge for them. I think because their opponents give so much energy to keep them out for 80 minutes that they're then running on fumes late, and Real Madrid have too many talented players and will cause a ton of problems. But Luka Modric did play a ton of matches, ton of minutes in the World Cup. He's not getting any younger at 37 years old or something like that. Toni Kroos has retired from international play, was still getting blamed for Germany's struggles, which is hilarious, but it's because people don't watch TV or matches, I guess. But somehow the talking heads get on TV. And I just feel like under, if anything, if you need to play something in this one, under 2.5 would probably be my lean. But that's Copa del Rey. This is episode 162 of Betting the Pitch, and my best bet, since we're only talking Copa del Rey, I'm going to go Real Sociedad +1 at Barcelona. I just feel like Barcelona's offense only mentality is really not a great setup in a tournament play like this. Real Sociedad have been incredible defensively. It's certainly been against worse competition because Barcelona is probably the best offense in La Liga. But I trust Real Sociedad. I think that they can cause problems for Barcelona's defense, which is really leaky, Swiss cheese, if you will. I don't know what the Catalan example of that would be. Shame on me. But Real Sociedad +1 on the road at Barcelona in the Spotify Camp Nou. When things don't go well there, fans turn pretty quickly. I think Real Sociedad hang in this match. And honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if they went to Camp Nou and knocked out Barcelona. Draw and regulation going extra time is also a win. So Real Sociedad +1, my best bet for this Betting the Pitch 162. And that'll do it, I think, for this episode. Hope you all get something out of this. I know it was brief, but wanted to get something out, especially since this is a pretty big competition and there's money to be made. So with that, thanks for listening, whether you're on Apple Podcast, Spotify. Please leave a 5-star review. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're on Twitter, feel free to slide us some DMs, and make sure you hit that follow button because the numbers are increasing and I appreciate that. But it seems to be more for college basketball because we've been a little bit hot there. Not so much soccer, but I'm trying to be hot in soccer. And I think I've been doing pretty well. Appreciate the support from everyone, and we'll love to respond to any of you if you want to slide us some DMs.